Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tips Over Tea. I am Nicole, your host, and I'm excited to introduce you to Dr. Toni today for the absolutely perfect conversation to start the year off. We're going to be talking about motivation versus inspiration. What comes up for you when you hear that? Well, I want you to go ahead, go grab your tea, go grab your notebook, grab a friend, tune in, and we'll see you soon. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tips Over Tea. I am so excited to have Dr. Toni on the show today. Dr. Toni, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here also.
Awesome. I'm excited about this conversation because it does come up quite a bit, like motivation versus inspiration. It can kind of be confused. So, what are some of what brought you to this? And you were saying that your clients sometimes have that challenge. How does it show up, I should say?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it seems subtle at first, but then once you start better understanding the difference, just in your own life, it can seem really overt, but it just doesn't start out that way. So I want to say that typically the people that find themselves attracted to working with me are the action takers, high achieving, doers, goers, givers, like in that kind of like energy of like going, doing, giving, acting, right? And that's because that's totally was me, and that like led me to burnout twice, right? So I get it. But that kind of energy typically when it isn't feeling fulfilling, when it's leaving you feeling like there's more and it's not enough, when it's like, well, if I could just reach this goal, if I could just hit this income, if I could just get this relationship, if I could just get out of this relationship, if I could just, then I would be happy, then things would be better, then I wouldn't be stressed. And then you do that thing, you work really hard for it, you push yourself really hard for it, maybe even sacrifice a lot for it, you get there, and then you're like, well, now I need to this, and then I need to this, right? It's like that's the motivational energy.
Mhm.
That's the motivational energy. And we use the word motivation. And you'll some people, like if you've ever seen me out there like doing kind of general conversations and like posts and things like that, you'll see me use the word motivation because that's what people understand. Like that's what people get. That's what we talk about in
Yeah.
mainstream. But that's not where the power is at. That's
Mhm.
not right. Think about it in your life, Nikki. Maybe you can like relate to this. Is like, did you have certain goals that you really wanted to achieve? You're like, when I get this thing done, or like when I do this, or when I hit this goal, I'm gonna be ecstatic. Everything's gonna be so much better. My life is gonna be so much smoother, or like everything like this. You ever have that?
Mhm. Yeah, and of course, motivation one is typically external,
Mhm.
and it very much so is goal oriented, right? So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, for
I'm sorry
sure.
I interrupted you. Where are you
No,
going?
not at all. I wanted to hear your input.
Yeah,
I think it's helpful to kind of, apply it to our own lives just to conceptualize it.
yeah.
So for me, um, when I was younger, I um, thought that if I never felt like I fit in. So I wanted to feel accepted. Now I didn't know that logically, that I didn't know that right when I was a kid, but that's what it was, right? I wanted to fit in. I wanted to feel accepted, and so I would do things so that I could feel more of that. And what I discovered was if I do things for people, or if I try to please people, or if I overgive of myself, even if only for a little bit, like I felt wanted, or I felt like useful, right? Like in some way.
Mhm.
And people don't often connect that to external, because you said motivation is external, and that's true. But that is external because I'm looking outside of myself to feel enough. I'm looking outside of myself to feel worthy. I'm looking outside of myself to feel wanted. I'm looking outside of myself for my worth and my usefulness.
Mhm.
And that's why I say that's not where the power is. It's not that that's not relevant. I don't believe at this point in my journey, I don't believe that we can live life without some kind of desire for motivation, without because it's part of us being a social species.
Mhm.
right? I am human. So naturally, I want to feel wanted. I want to feel connected. We're a social species. So naturally, I want that. But if my foundation is embedded and I can only be lovable enough, worthy, useful, right? If someone else says it, if I'm giving to someone else, that's the flaw. Like that's right. Like that's the thing that so many people get trapped in, and myself included. You know, I
Yeah.
was there.
Yeah.
So it happens in business too.
Yep.
Right? It happens in business. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. It happens in parenting. Like if I could just be the mom that my mom wasn't, then I have to do this, that, and that, and then like my kids will be perfect, or they'll be healthy, or they won't want for anything. Or if I could just make this amount of money in my business, then I'll be happy and I'll be able to live the life that I want to live. And then I'll take time. Then I'll
Mhm.
take time for myself or my family or whatever. Then what happens when we do those things is that it's still not enough.
Yeah.
It's still not enough. And that's that motivational part, is like we look outside of ourselves. If we get that thing, if we do that thing, then it'll be enough. And it never is, which means the motivational fuel, what I call is motivational fuel, is short term,
Mhm.
and it's depleting
Mhm.
because it can't be sustained. But I don't want to go like too abstract because I want it to be like applicable. So you tell me like what your thoughts are on that, if that makes sense for you, or like what comes up for you, or maybe
Yeah.
even your experiences with that.
So what comes up for me is, they have the term intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And would you consider intrinsic more of the inspiration side? Yeah. Because I don't want to confuse people with that, like who are familiar with those terms, and they're like, but it's me. Like I'm motivated by something that I'm driven to do. So I just wanted to make sure, see if I was understanding where you were going with that and clear with it, and just in case anyone had that question in their mind, um,
Yeah.
what that means, or where we were going, where were our thoughts with that area.
Yeah.
Um, Also, what came to mind, based on extrinsic motivation, is those factors are not constant because they're human, right? So they can change at any moment. And if you're acting based on extrinsic factors that could change at any moment, then you're always changing, and or confused or feeling ungrounded, or it's very hard to keep up with trying to stay motivated do based on something outside of you
Yeah.
that you have no control over. That's what came to mind as you were sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And I think that is an important distinction, right? Is this so then if that's motivation, then what is inspiration?
Mhm.
Right? And you could actually do the same thing. You could be doing the same behavior. I could be offering to help someone from a place of motivation or from a place of inspiration. I could be doing the same exact thing, but the reasoning behind it, which often we're not aware of, just generally speaking, we don't pay attention to that unless we have become intentional about paying attention to that, right? Like we're not taught how to do that,
Right.
right? So we don't realize we're like giving or doing, pushing ourselves from this place of like, I have to do this in order to like be considered successful or be considered enough, or like be considered like whatever. It's there's so many stories around that for different, it's different for different people.
Mhm.
But you could want to do that same thing. You could want to build that business. You could want to be that kind of mom or parent. You could want to be that kind of partner. You could do right. Like you could do the same exact thing purely because it lights you up. It
Yeah.
brings you joy. Like I just feel so good. It's like I can feel that the fire in me. I feel warm, and it's so exciting to me.
Yeah.
And that's the inspiration.
Yeah.
It's not the force, it's the flow. Right? Like it's not the push till you sacrifice. It's yeah, there's still going to be challenges. Don't get me wrong, right? But I don't have to push myself through the challenges in order to be enough or successful or be considered whatever. It's, oh, because this feels good. This is exciting. It's lighting me up,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It gives you a light at the end of the tunnel of the challenges that do come up, right? You're not like dreading it. You're like, I'm gonna get there because this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This feels good to me. It's interesting that I love that you brought up that you can do the same activity from two different um, perspectives, so to speak. I was talking to someone about that recently who was trying to get better at self-love.
Mm,
And she's like, I take myself out on a date, I give myself flowers, I write myself a love letter, and I still doesn't feel, I was like, that's because you're doing it from a place of, you're doing it to try to feel enough instead of doing it because you know you're enough, right? So that's what came to mind as you were sharing that.
yes. Thank you for sharing that because that's why I say it seems subtle at first, right? Like when you first start, because you're like, but I did the thing. I did the thing. This other person did the thing and it worked for them. But like I'm doing the thing and it's not working for me. What like, what in the world, right? And
Mhm,
that's like because it's not about the thing that you do or even necessarily how much you do it, or it's about why
mhm.
you are doing it. It's about what's fueling your intentions and your desires behind it, which we just don't talk enough about. And just in mainstream culture conversation, right?
Yeah,
It's either it seems like there's it can be either or. There's this culture of like push yourself really hard. You have to sacrifice for success, right? And then there's this culture of like um almost like a no, I want it immediate and I want it to be fun. I want it immediate and I want it to be fun. And the contrast between the two can seem pretty extreme, but we don't need to be on either end, right? Like it doesn't need to be one extreme or the other. And wherever you're at on the spectrum is fine. Like don't shame and blame yourself because that's not going to be of any use to anyone, especially yourself. But
mhm.
we all have had some experience with either ourselves or someone else on one end of the spectrum. It's because that's what we know. That's
Yeah.
that's what we learn. That's what we're exposed to. But really, my perspective, and this has changed
Mhm,
now from where I used to be.
mhm.
But like life is meant to be enjoyed
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
right? Not like you're supposed to be pushing yourself and sacrificing yourself so much in order to, at one point in time, some many years later, be able to enjoy your life.
yeah,
And that doesn't mean that the more in touch you get with your inspiration, that there aren't moments in life that aren't hard or challenging. There aren't um, times that, just still hurt. That's not what it means. You can't devoid your life of that. But I do think that life is meant to be enjoyed, and we spend a lot of time in our society not enjoying it.
yeah, yeah. It's because enjoyment is associated, it's not associated with necessarily success, or it's an aftermath type thing instead of like enjoying through the process. Like you literally have to be intentional about
Yeah,
enjoying yourself
yeah,
because it's so easy to get sucked in, especially in the US. Like we are like go, go, go. Like I look at other countries and they have all this siestas and those like the US is not that. I was talking with one young lady and a company she works for, they get 7 days of leave a year, and that includes sick time.
mm,
And I'm like, I don't know how that's legal for one thing, but it really speaks to like work all the time is the mentality, and it's making people sick.
for sure.
And because of the way a lot of us are brought up, we go into career fields that are not necessarily enjoyable for us,
Mm,
just expected. This income, and again, that was a typically an external motivation type thing. Make my parents happy. This is what's expected. This is what And it would feel scary to step away from what you know, but I'm like, but what will you gain by doing that too?
Yeah.
Not that I'm trying to tell anybody to quit their jobs or anything, but it's just that's when it can be helpful to find something to do on the side that brings that joy.
Mm-hmm. Even starting somewhere, right? Because everyone's where we're all at in our journey is so unique, so different. And so just starting somewhere, for some people that might mean taking a really big, seemingly drastic step. And for others, it might mean taking what seems like a really small,
Yeah.
more subtle step. But if it's I'm doing this thing, whatever this thing is,
Hmm.
because it feels like a relief, even just a little bit of relief. It feels
Yeah.
like a relief for me, not an unhealthy relief. And this is another thing, right? This is another thing that people can trip up over. They're like, oh, so I'm supposed to like feel good and have fun. So like, if I'm upset or angry or stressed or overwhelmed, like I'll just drink or I'll just smoke or like or it feels good for me to give, so I'll just keep giving.
Yeah.
But all of those, when they're done to an extreme, and they become relied upon in order for you to be able to feel good,
That's unhealthy.
that's not inspiration.
Yeah.
That's just creating another crutch,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just and so again, like it seems subtle when you start parceling it out in the beginning, but then as you pay attention, it becomes more and more clear. I was addicted to action. I did not know it.
Hmm.
I did not know it when I was in it.
Hmm.
I really had to get slapped and my life turned upside down. I don't mean physically slapped, but like life had to like slap me. And I get turned upside down really drastically to rattle me, to shake me enough to notice that I was addicted to action. The subtle wasn't going to cut it for me because I'm headstrong and right independent woman, and right like subtle wasn't going to cut it for me. That I wasn't going to pay attention to that.
Hmm.
So it had to be like intense and drastic for me to pay attention and realize that I was addicted to action and I needed to slow down. And that slowing down didn't make me less useful. It didn't make me unproductive. It didn't make me less ambitious. That was a big one for me. Like, I love my ambition, I love my drive. I still do.
Yeah.
But ambition and drive doesn't have to come from a place of that motivation, right? Like I have to do this or I have to be this way or I'm not enough or successful or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to fit in, I'm not accepted, blah 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 blah. Right? You can be ambitious and driven. I still am, but I am from a different energy,
Yeah.
from a different place. It's not from a place of I'm not enough, like you said. It's from a place of like I am more than enough, and I'm still always growing and evolving and learning and
Hmm.
expanding in some way.
Yeah. I love that. I was the same. Not fully active, but I'm working all the time. Like two jobs all the time, and always taking courses or buying courses. One of my biggest things was I would buy courses a lot and not really finish them. I would start them and then I'd buy another one. And so mine was keeping myself in debt subconsciously, but feeling like I was doing something. I mean, so that motivation was probably like a numbing out type thing or something. I don't know.
We're like, and I don't know enough. I need to know more. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe I do know that I have a dream, I have a vision, but I don't know enough to get there. So I need to keep gathering information, gathering. Then I'll know enough. But well, wait, but now there's something else. Like, but I don't know all that. Now I need to know more. Like now I'll
Mhm,
know enough. Now I'll know enough. I don't know enough. I need in order to be really good at what I do, I have to know enough, right?
mhm,
So that
mhm.
inherent in that is this like I don't know enough, so I need to know enough, and that is that like lack or motivation type of fuel, because we're in an information heavy society, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Information or education is not bad or wrong. It's
Yeah,
in how we use it. It's in if we're coming from this motivational place of like needing it in order to be enough in some way, or if like it's helping us along our journey, which we already know we inherently are designed to enjoy, and like we don't have to earn it.
yeah,
that information, and then it can turn into information overload. I don't know if that has happened for you, but I've definitely have clients that like get information overload because they feel like they don't know enough. If they just learn the right thing, then they can do it the right way. If they just learn all of this, then they'll be able to do all of this and they'll be able to do it the right way. And then everything will go just as so. And it's like information overload. Blah, 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 blah. Oh no, like where do I go from here? I've taken all the information in where it's too much. And
Yeah. It's like, what do I do with this information? How am I curating this? How do I put it to use in my practice? Yes, I did that a lot.
Yeah, because we get into comparison mode, which is totally human.
Yeah.
Look at other people. Oh, well, they know this and they seem like they're successful or they seem like they know what they're talking about. So I must need to know that too in order to, you don't have to do this intentionally. It just happens, right? It's it just happens because we're so used to it. Mm-hmm. We are so used to like looking around and comparing ourselves. And again, comparison is not inherently bad or wrong. It's just what is the reason why we are doing it at any given moment of time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that because I do with my clients too. They get into comparison mode, and I'm like, it's okay to look at someone for inspiration, but it's when you're like, I'm not good enough because I'm not like them that get challenged. Yeah. And I fell into that, like, because you know me, like, or you see me. I'm like this all the time. And the U.S. loves the really hyperactive people. And for the longest time, I was like comparing myself. Why can't I be that energetic? And why can I? And I'm like, at some point, I had to accept who I am because I'm not going to be bouncing off anybody's wall. It's just not me. And I'm like, my purpose is to help bring some calm to people. So it's accepting who you are and what can you do to the best of your ability. And you can use people's gifts and what they share as, you can take pieces of it and what feels right for you and curate your own design of doing things or way of doing things.
Just this morning, I was writing in my journal. There's a new course that I'm creating, but in it was this idea that a lot of entrepreneurs in particular, but even beyond entrepreneurship, is if I make a certain amount of money, there's a lot of money stories out there, right? Mm-hmm. If I just make a certain amount of money, then things for me will shift, like in this better, positive way. Like all of this stuff that I'm having a hard time with now, it won't mean anything. It'll be gone, or it'll be fixed, or it'll be resolved, or it won't be a big deal, right? If I make X amount of money. And if it is, well, then I'll have the time and the money to deal with it, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But think about like, how many wealthy people do we know, even if you just reference the news, if you don't actually know a wealthy person, even if you just reference news, that are like miserable, that come out and share that they're really struggling with mental health, that can't sustain a healthy, intimate relationship, in and out, right? It's not about the money. It's not about and that doesn't mean, again, that money is bad or wrong. There's nothing bad or wrong about wanting money.
Right.
But money's not going to be the fixer.
Right.
Right. And so what happens, or what I've seen at least, is that when we tell ourselves, well, when I make X amount of money, then my marriage will be better. Then whatever. Then I won't feel so angry. I feel so angry right now, or I feel so stressed out right now because when I make because I'm not making money. So once I make the money, then that'll be better. Mm-hmm. What happens actually when you make the money is that issues are amplified.
Yep.
They don't go down. They don't go away. You might have gotten better at either buying things to numb or avoid it or hide it, mm-hmm. but they are amplified. So if you are having marital struggles now while you're trying to build your business or make more money, they are going to be amplified if they are not addressed before you make the more money. And so this is a big thing for my clients, is like, well, no. Like, I'll deal with that after I make the money and build the business. No. You won't, because that's going to be baked into the foundation of what you are building, and therefore is going to be built upon and amplified. And how can I say that? Because I've not just seen it, I've experienced it. Like, right? Right? And that sounds so backwards, but it's true, because money's not the fixer. Money, motivation, money. Like, those are together when we expect money to be the fixer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Because, and that is one of the biggest things. It's the, again, depending on the external thing, to bring that peace and that enjoyment instead of fixing the internal stuff first. And that's the biggest takeaway I get from the motivation versus inspiration. How do people realize they're stuck in like too much do, go without burning out? Like, do they come to you before they burn out, or do they end up burning out and they find you?
That's a good question. I've seen both.
Okay.
And so I will say that my definition of burnout is very different than mainstream. I don't attribute burnout to just work. I've seen people burn out in marriages. I've seen people burn out as parents. I've seen people burn out with work. Right. And so to me, burnout is like when you become disconnected or unfulfilled in some way in a certain meaningful area of your life. And you can feel that, right? So people come to me in that sense, like they can feel either the lack of fulfillment or the, like, there is more, but I can't reach it, you know, or like a stuckness kind of thing. That's when they come to me, because if things are all going good, going well, air quotes, right? Then people tend to try to ride the wave and be like, well, I'm just fine. Right. If I'm going to invest in anything, it's going to be, you know, my business, or I'm going to invest in something outside of myself, because I'm just fine. I'm just fine until like something meaningful has to be felt, whatever that might be for someone, in order for them to say, actually, fine is not good enough, or I'm not really fine. For them to come to me. Now, there are folks that are just in it, like they've been in the field of self-growth and development for so long that they know its importance. And so that's why they invest. And so absolutely those folks exist as well. But generally speaking, I'll say generally the average is someone that's like, I can feel the stuckness or stagnancy or lack of fulfillment in some way. I know that there's more, I want more, but like, I'm hitting some kind of wall here.
Yeah. I like the wall analogy, because we always think of athletes hitting a wall. They need coaches, and like, that is not the only place you need a coach or help. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're coming very close to time. I would love for you to share. You mentioned briefly that you have a workshop that you're writing, or a course that you're putting together. Is there anything else? I mean, of course, all of your information will be in the description below, but what else would you like to share with the audience before we close out?
Well, I actually created a way. So right now we're at the time of this recording, it's December, and the year is holiday season, which I love. So I don't have any openings at this present moment. So what I did was I created a wait list. So I have the link to the wait list, and on that wait list, folks that are interested, I have an upcoming book. It's going to be officially published and released in February. I'm so excited. It is, yes, thank you. Actually, Nikki and I know each other because of a book that we co-authored together, and that was amazing. So this is a separate one, and it's called The Reset, and it is High Achievers Roadmap to Get Unstuck. That is what it is. It is actually one of my existing courses put out in kind of like self walkthrough form, but also with the story format, so you can really experience it. It's so exciting. And so you can get on the wait list for that if you want to be an advanced reader on my team and give me advanced feedback, testimonials, all those things. That would be wonderful. And that's, doesn't really cost anything. That's on the wait list. If you want to be in my upcoming Entrepreneur Essentials pack, that's the course that I'm in the process of creating, and I'll be rolling that out in the beginning of 2022. And then I'll be opening up a couple of private slots, one-to-one slots. So all of that's on the wait list, and you can check that out at boldandbalancecoaching.com under the courses tab. But I'll give you the link as well, so that you can connect right over there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this chat today. I hope it opens some eyes, because sometimes you just don't know that things are out of balance when that becomes your norm, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you kind of hear, oh, maybe that I need to take a look at that, when you hear someone else discuss it. So I hope that this conversation has done that for someone, and they know to come to you or get on the wait list and get to work in a different way.
Thank you for having me, Nikki. I loved this conversation. I loved it. So thank you for being open to it and for asking me to be here with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. And thank you everyone who watched live and who was catching the replay. I really appreciate it. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Share this chat if you know someone who could benefit from this conversation or any of the conversations I've had on the channel. And until then, we'll see you next time. Ciao, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and click the bell so you'll be notified anytime we upload a new video or go live. And as always, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to post it in the comments. We're always checking that. In the meantime, have a great